welcome to Diving Into God, a podcast where we discuss Catholic theology. And now here are your hosts, David and Liz.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at a text that's a little bit different, a little bit outside what you might be used to. It's called the Protoevangelium of James.
Yeah, you could almost think of it like, those movies that came out like way later but tell the story of what happened before the main story, like a prequel to the Gospels, focusing on Mary.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it, a prequel,
Yeah.
but why haven't we heard this story before? It's not in the Bible.
Exactly. Well, it's not considered part of the official canon, but that doesn't make it any less interesting, It gives us a glimpse into these early Christian beliefs and how they pictured Mary's life.
It's like finding like a hidden diary entry that just adds a whole new dimension to a story you thought you knew. Okay, so you're telling me this Protoevangelium thing, it's got the inside scoop on Mary even before Jesus.
You got it. This is Mary, behind the scenes, the early years. We're talking about her parents, Joachim and Anna, a devout couple who wanted children more than anything.
Okay, but families back then were kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it almost like expected?
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge part of their culture. And for women especially, not having children, well, let's just say it came with a lot of pressure and even a sense of maybe divine disfavor. Hard to imagine that today.
Yeah, no kidding. And it says here they even, double their offerings at the temple. They really, really wanted a kid.
They were desperate. I mean, can you imagine going to those lengths? It shows you just how deeply they longed for a child, how much it meant to them.
It makes you think about other stories in the Bible, like Abraham and Sarah. They struggled to have kids too, right?
Exactly. It's this recurring idea in these narratives, that divine intervention when all hope seems lost.
So what happens with Joachim and Anna? Does it work out for them?
Well, Anna is heartbroken. She's desperate, and she goes to pray under a laurel tree.
A laurel tree. I mean, that's kind of poetic, isn't it? Like she's asking nature itself for help.
Right. And her prayer, it's full of these images from nature, birds, animals, even the water and the earth, all teeming with life. It's a beautiful image, but also heartbreaking because it highlights what she feels she doesn't have.
It's like she's on the outside looking in.
Totally. But then, because this is the Bible we're talking about, an angel appears to Anna with some big news. She will have a child who will be famous throughout the world.
Talk about an answer to your prayer. So what does she do? What does Anna do with that?
Well, Anna makes a vow. She promises to dedicate this child to God.
Wow. So before Mary is even born, her path is chosen. It's like destiny's calling. It's like she's got a purpose even before she takes her first breath. So what about Mary? What is her childhood like?
Well, the Protoevangelium doesn't skimp on the wow factor. Get this, Mary starts walking at 6 months old.
6 months? Come on, that's unheard of. Babies are barely sitting up at that age.
I know, right? It's like they're saying, this baby, she's different. Pay attention. It's all about highlighting how special Mary was, even as a tiny baby.
Okay, that makes sense. They're setting the stage. But remember Anna's vow to dedicate Mary to God.
Oh, they totally follow through on that. They go all out, basically build a little sanctuary in their home to protect her, keep her away from anything impure.
Wow, seriously? Like a holy Bible for Mary. That's a lot of pressure on a kid.
It might seem like that to us, but remember, this story is all about emphasizing Mary's unique path. It's about building up that image of holiness around her.
So that's why she ends up living in the temple, right? I think I vaguely remember that part.
You're right, she does. But before we get to that, there's this even wilder detail. The Protoevangelium tells us that Mary, while she's still really young, she's fed by an angel.
Wait, what? Fed by an angel? Was he bringing her, heavenly snacks or something?
Doesn't say what was on the menu, unfortunately. But you can see what they're doing, right? They're adding another layer of the miraculous to Mary's story.
It's like she's always surrounded by the divine. Okay, so she's fed by angels, she lives a super sheltered life, and then she goes to the temple.
Exactly. But then things get interesting. She reaches puberty and the priests are like, uh-oh, now what?
I can only imagine. Having a young woman in the temple probably caused some logistical issues, not to mention the cultural norms of the time. So what would it do?
Well, they decide to find a guardian for her, someone respectable to take care of her. Any guesses how they chose?
Did they put an ad in the temple newsletter? Wanted, guardian for pious young woman, must be comfortable with, doves.
Doves, you say? Funny you should mention that. They gather up all the eligible widowers, right? And each of them brings a rod.
Wait, are we talking about like a magic rod ceremony here?
Pretty much. They prayed for a sign from God to reveal who should be Mary's guardian.
Okay, so everyone's standing around holding their rods, waiting for something magical to happen. What did one of the rods catch fire?
Not quite. But when the Joseph steps up, a dove flies out of his rod, circles around, lands right on his head.
Okay, that's hard to miss. Talk about a sign from above.
No kidding. But it's more than just a cool visual. Doves, they're important symbols. Peace, purity, the Holy Spirit. It's all connecting to what's coming next.
Okay, so we've got Joseph, the dove chose him, he's the guardian. Now we're getting to the part everyone knows, the Annunciation. But I bet this Protoevangelium thing, it probably has a different spin on it.
You know it. The setting's a little different than in Luke. This time, Mary's at a well, just drawing water, and that's when she hears the angel.
Oh, wow. So she's just like going about her day and bam,
Yeah.
angel time. That's got to be jarring. What does she do?
She's scared. I mean, wouldn't you be? You're alone. Suddenly there's a voice telling you you're going to have this very special baby.
I'd be running for the hills. But Mary, she accepts it like she always does. She's incredibly strong. Her faith it's amazing.
It really is. And remember how we talked about Mary visiting Elizabeth? That's in here too. That moment when they both realize this is something miraculous, what's happening to us.
It's like they're the only ones who really get it, this bond between them. It's pretty powerful. But what about Joseph? When he finds out about Mary, I mean, what's going through his head?
The Protoevangelium, it's honest about that. Joseph's human. He has doubts. He's confused, which, let's be real, makes total sense.
Totally. It'd be weird if he wasn't a little freaked out. But just like Matthew says, an angel shows up in a dream to clear things up.
Yep, another classic dream sequence. It's like God's way of getting a direct line, no distractions.
And the angel tells Joseph, don't worry, this is the Holy Spirit at work here. But I have a feeling the Protoevangelium doesn't stop there. Too tame.
You're catching on. This time, it's during Jesus' birth. Mary and Joseph, they're in a cave, no room at the inn. You know the story.
The OG holiday travel nightmare.
Right. But as Mary's about to give birth, this brilliant light, radiant, comes down from the sky, covers the whole cave.
Talk about an entrance. Was there like a choir of angels too?
Yeah. No angels singing this time. But the midwife, she's there, and she's totally amazed. And that's when we meet someone new, a woman named Salome.
Salome? Who's she?
Not much about her, except that she's there at the birth, and she's skeptical, like really skeptical about Mary still being a virgin.
I'm guessing she asks for proof.
You bet. But that doesn't go well. She tries to examine Mary, and her hand, it's like she touches a hot stove. Instant pain.
Ouch. Divine intervention. Don't test it.
Seriously. Don't question this miracle. But it's not all, fire and brimstone. Salome realizes she messed up. She repents.
And that's when she's healed.
Instantly. It's showing how even if we doubt, even if we make mistakes, there's always forgiveness. It's pretty hopeful, actually.
Wow, that is, so we've gone through a lot. The Protoevangelium of James, it's definitely something. Gives you a new perspective on Mary, on Jesus' birth.
It reminds you there's always more to the story, details you might not get in the usual texts. It's fascinating.
For sure. So before we go, anything else people should keep in mind about this Protoevangelium?
It's not in the Bible, that's true. But these stories, even the ones that sound a little out there, they meant something to those early Christians. They helped them understand Mary, understand Jesus. It's worth thinking about.
Totally. Sometimes you got to dig a little deeper, look beyond the familiar to really understand history, to understand faith. And who knows, you might find yourself saying, you've got to be kidding me along the way, like I did. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Protoevangelium of James. We'll see you next time.
Dive into the divine heart. Faith and love in every word. The voice of truth will